What is up, guys? How you guys doing today? We are DNVR Rapid, and we are live with your host Yaya. And today we got special guest Joseph. How you doing, Joseph?
I'm good. How about yourself, man?
All
I mean,
good.
aside
Just
from the loss.
I'm always happy. That's my line to everybody. I'm happy.
Fair enough.
But as it goes to everybody, just want to let everybody know Mitch is doing better. He did get. Unfortunately, he's on safety in protocol right now. He got a little sick and he can't be on the show, but we got superstar Joseph to help us out.
Thanks for having me, and shout out to Mitch. Hope he recovers well and starts feeling better. And I'll be 100% honest. I don't think he, um, is missing a particularly exciting day in Rapids Land today. Considering the loss.
So that's kind of where I want to start off with. Before we get into the game or anything, I want to ask you, what do you call the Rapids fan base?
What do we call them? Like, what
Yeah,
do you
what do
mean?
we
Like,
call ourselves? Like there's Broncos country, there's Avs fam. So what do you call the Rapids fan base?
I don't know, man. I guess you got C38 obviously, but that's like the supporters group.
Yeah,
I don't want to say any name I'm gonna regret. So, I mean, I don't have a name for him.
I'm gonna push right now. I want to be called the Tidal Waves
Okay,
because
I
the
buy that.
Rapids. That's what I
I
want to
think
be
you could get
called.
tsunami in there too.
Ooh, the tsunami.
I always thought like tsunami was a cool word. So.
How the tsunami's feeling? That's not a
We're
bad
the
way to go for
Burgundy
sure.
Boys. I mean, too. I mean,
Are we the Burgundy boys?
everybody's the Burgundy Boys.
As
I
long
don't
as you
know.
just gotta wear the burgundy. I
That's
always
true. I
struggle.
mean, not me today. So.
Yeah, I always struggle because I do cover the Avalanche too, and like I struggle because they also wear burgundy, and I've heard a couple like burgundy boys thrown in there, and I'm like, it just doesn't work for hockey. It's the Rapids thing. You guys can't take that away from us.
It's true.
So, getting into this game, the Rapids are knocked out of the U.S. Open Cup. They lose 2-1 against Minnesota United in about what, an 18-hour game?
Yeah,
You want to
roughly
call
that
it?
kicked off. I want to say right at 6 p.m. Mountain Time last
Hmm.
night. Got called off around 17. I think 17:30 was the official restart time or the official time when lightning hit. And then the players, went back to the locker rooms, came out 20 minutes later, and then there was more lightning, and then tornado warnings, then hail, and then the floodgates of heaven opened up on Allianz Field and just drenched the playing surface. And they eventually came to the conclusion around, I want to say 9:30 last night, that it just wasn't going to happen. And then we re-kicked off at 12 today, and the Rapids held on to the 1-1 scoreline for most of the game before uh, Minnesota United. Brenton Coleman picks up a second yellow card for Minnesota in the 83rd minute. 4 minutes later, Minnesota scores. So, it was just one of those games. The Rapids sat back really defensively the whole time, looked for opportunities in counterattacks and in transition. Um, and yeah, sorry, Mitch, you're not here. Like we miss having you on the show. But yeah,
Honestly,
it's
yeah, he's my second half on the show. Without Mitch, I'm just yeah. I'm not super producer. I'm just yeah. So for sure, I miss Mitch. Shout out to
yeah.
super host Mitch.
But it just wasn't a very promising game. Like when the red card happened, you thought that maybe that the Rapids would be able to just grab a goal, especially if it went into extra time. And they just had the wind taken out of their sails literally immediately, like 4 minutes after the red card. Reynoso uh, bypasses both Trusty and Warner. Great solo goal, honestly, if you're a Minnesota fan watching that, but it wasn't too much fun watching the Rapids defense defend that play, if I'm honest.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's I kind of want to touch a little bit on that red card before we get into the goals.
sure.
Um, so that red card, it was an accumulation of yellows.
Yeah.
Uh, Jonathan Lewis was on a break and a pretty bad foul. Do you think when that red card came, when they gave him the red card, that second yellow, and you're like, okay, that's an automatic red? Did you think the Rapids were winning that game at that moment?
I definitely like I
that
definitely
started
was
to
pretty
dream.
optimistic. Yeah, like the dream. I went into this match not expecting much. Honestly, I was expecting this result, but I wasn't expecting the result to come about like the way it did.
Mhm.
And that's what makes it like a little bit disappointing to watch. Like I think on one hand, if Frazier had rolled out a lineup with a bunch of Rapids 2 guys, like Anderson from the start, Yappy up top, Edwards in defense, like things would have been, it would have been a bit more palatable to take a late defeat like that because at least all those kids got like really solid minutes. But this time, it was mostly like the bench players from the first team out there earning a start,
Mhm.
and a handful of starters getting a start in the cup, and
A
and
lot of the
honestly, like
defense was
yeah,
starters. A lot of it was like
it's true.
they were like the first team starters, and it was I that's the going a little bit to like what you're saying the first because I had a lot of the first team players. That's why I heard a little bit more to me this time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I just wish that I don't know, like the bigger problems that I saw were that the team just didn't look great tactically. We went back to the three at the back system. Keegan
Mhm.
Rosenberry gets lined up at the central center back role from the start, which I believe is the first time he's ever played like that specific center back spot. Like previously he'd been playing one of those outside center back roles
Yeah,
when he got on the back three. And I think it's the first time he's played right there in the middle, and he was sort of trying to act like that Danny Wilson regista or whatever, trying to ping
yeah,
long balls and sort of dictate the counter-attacking play from the center like that.
for sure.
And I thought he had a really quiet night. I thought all the defenders had kind of a quiet night. For a team that was as defensive as Colorado was on the night, they didn't, or on the 2 days, I guess, um, they didn't record any. Like I looked at the statistical metrics for most of the defenders, they didn't put in numbers that I would call like impressive or above
For sure.
average, which is surprising considering you know how much they were defending. Um,
So at that point, like Keegan starting in that role, I
yeah.
think they would have been better off changing the whole thing tactically and going with Rapids 2
Mhm.
because Keegan is not getting that role. He's great at creating from the outside.
Yeah.
He's a winger. If you're gonna play him at that right wing back, and he'll always create chances. But I don't know if you've ever played soccer. When you're so used to playing on the edge and playing like right there at the on the out of bounds, and then moving towards the middle, it's such a big difference because you're always trying to worry about the outside, not trying to like you only have like what maybe 10 feet between you and the out of bounds to work with. When you're playing in the middle, you basically have the whole field you have to worry about.
100%. I played
Yeah.
wing back for
So did
basically
I.
my entire career. Yeah.
So did I.
So
I played a lot of wing back. I played a lot of I was the right back most of my career. So I
sure,
was
if
the
same with
so
me, yeah, right
yeah.
there in the that was my bread and butter was just running up and down the touchline and whipping in some
Mhm.
good crosses. That was basically my MO back when I was playing regularly. Um, but yeah, it was just a really weird defensive setup. Like even for the 3-4-3, I was surprised with the
Yeah, we
Rapids.
got this to show you real quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So usually Frazier lines out his back five in a 3-4-3. But today this data comes from at the end of the first half, so before Frazier made a lot of substitutions that changed the shape a little bit, and you can kind of see that it's really a 5-3-2 this time around. With Acosta as like a central defensive midfield pivot, and Mosquita and Max sort of as dual eights, and Rubio and Barrios up top, and then of course Markanich and Betashore as the wing backs. Uh, and I thought that the issue with this is that there wasn't a lot of good link up play in between the midfield and the forwards, and as a result, the Rapids didn't really get into attacking positions too often.
Mhm.
Um, and I just thought it was interesting that Frazier went with a system like that looked a little bit more like that as opposed to some like the three forwards we've been used to. Uh,
I would
we've
have
been used to
preferred
seeing this
something
team.
like that. I would have liked them to keep the four, go with the four back, then go with the
Mm,
3-2, whatever they've been doing when Sardis has been playing the last couple of games.
sure.
To me, that was my preferred. But I understand what he was trying to do. I think he was trying to win this game. I think he thought that Minnesota was going to come out and bring Minnesota 2 out for the most part because Minnesota did have a few stars out there too. They even brought Reynoso in. So I think at that point, his whole tactics of just like, oh, let's try to mess around with it, see if we can sneak by with the win or even take it into overtime or penalties and see if we can get the win there. It just completely backfired on him towards the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think it becomes an even bigger issue when you look at like what this means for the Rapids schedule. Um, uh, Obviously, playing like 5 games in 16 days wasn't great to begin with, but now you're playing, LAFC in less than 48 hours after you finished the game in Minnesota, and you're going to be able to, and you have a significant number of your first team who went 90 minutes today, or I guess over the course of 2 days. And getting off of your routine like that, the fact that the game was postponed one day, the team getting off their routine like that, I can't imagine it would be positive for Colorado. And I don't know if you saw this, but Robin Fraser did not have some very nice things to say about the way U.S. Soccer and MLS handled the delay. He seemed to think that they would have been much better served postponing one of their MLS games or another match later in the season to give both teams a little bit more breathing room. And he said his concern was about player safety, and that's his only concern. Apparently, not everybody else shares that same concern. And everyone else meaning MLS and U.S. Soccer.
See, I get Frazier. I get where he's coming from. The frustrating part where he has no control. He had his plan laid out for him. Like he's like, "We'll play the game Wednesday. I'll start these players. Someone will be rested enough for Saturday, and then we'll go from there." So I
I
get
think
where
he
his frustration
100
comes from.
Yeah, I think he 100% entered in this week with a mind of like, I have this one lineup for this game and this one lineup for this other game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make some tactical substitutions to spread around the minutes, maybe give a half to Rubio so he can go more on the weekend. And it just didn't work out. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. Like,
And I get that, and like, it's just so hard because this LAFC game on Saturday, it's a national TV game.
yeah.
It's at 1:30. So rescheduling that game this Saturday would be really hard.
Oh,
Where
yeah.
like the one thing I could see is maybe switching it for the national TV game on Sunday. That would be the only thing I could, and then you get an extra day that you had promised you would get like the same amount of rest. But even then, like you would have to reschedule the other team that also played on Wednesday, that national TV game on Saturday, and reschedule everything from there. Tickets, events, like all that
I
changes
think
so
the only
much.
way it would have worked is if they rescheduled the game for next Wednesday and moved that MLS match that's on that day. I forget who it's against, but they could have moved that during the international break.
Hmm.
Because we're coming up like right at the end of May. We're coming up on a period where they have 2-3 weeks without a match.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, the international break, which is strange because the Rapids usually play during international break. This
they
year they haven't so far.
Yeah, they chose not. That was a choice given to
Yeah,
teams this year,
and
and I
they
think,
go ahead.
yeah, I just think only 6 teams
Hmm.
made the choice to play during those games, and as a result, that's why the Rapids are in the position they're in with regards to their
Hmm.
schedule. Um,
And the Rapids usually take that choice. They always play during international breaks. They're one of the few teams that, like in the last couple of years, few years, they've played during the international break. So I was when I found out this year they weren't that much. I was kind of like, what? They're like a change of guard. Do they think they're gonna go far in the season and they want to like use that to rest up?
yeah, I want to talk about a little bit though about like sort of the Rapids' historic performance in the Open Cup, and
You
I
did
don't know.
you did some research on this. I saw
Well,
your
yeah,
full thread of tweets.
And Brendan Plone over at the Denver Post did a lot of deep diving on this too, and so did the Cup.us, which is
Hmm.
the oldest running like sort of media outlet solely dedicated to covering
The
the
U.S.
Cup. And the Rapids' history in this tournament isn't pretty, and they haven't played more than 3 games in the Open Cup in 17 straight seasons. They've lost in their first match in their last 3. I'm pretty sure they have they have the highest number of losses to lower division teams in the cup among MLS teams, like since MLS was founded in
Mhm.
1996. This is a tournament that the Rapids have rarely, I guess, put their best foot forward in. And I guess considering how wobbly the team's form was looking this season, it would have been nice if the team had a cup run because, I mean, if we're honest, is anybody here expecting that this team goes on to win the Supporter Shield or MLS Cup this year? Is
That's what
that
I was.
even like,
That was actually one of my questions last week, if you remember.
oh, yeah, sure.
Should the Rapids say, you know what, this LAFC game is going to be very hard. We can focus on the MLS after this cup game. We'll just kind of say, okay, let's try to squeeze out a tie against LAFC, play a lot of defense, and then try to go win this U.S. Open Cup so they can have the good feels in the fan base, in the locker room, and that they're trying to win an actual trophy. That was my main thing, and I thought they
Yeah.
should have. I thought they should have gone full send and try to win this cup, try to win this cup game, and try to go far in the cup.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like I kind of see both sides of it because with the way things are going in the league right now, you kind of need every available point if you do want to make the playoffs. And I think the Rapids, like, I think that is the central goal this season is they want to
Mm-hmm.
make the playoffs. But honestly, I guess Jared Geisler and I were talking about this on Twitter the other day, and he sort of proposed the hypothetical that would you rather miss the playoffs if it meant winning the U.S. Open Cup? And I find myself kind of saying, yeah, that'd be okay. Because you know why? I always think about 2013 DC United, one of the worst teams in MLS history. In terms of total points, in terms of goals scored by a bunch of metrics, they're one of the, you know, it's
Worst
one of the
teams to
poorest,
ever play in
it's one of the
MLS.
poorest
Yeah,
seasons that any team has ever put in the league. And they went and won the Open Cup because they realized halfway through their season that they weren't going to do it in the league, so they needed to excite their fan base and win a trophy. And I get that it's hard to like go on the road midweek and play a game over 2 days. And I'm not saying that the Rapids punted on this because I don't know if they necessarily, I don't know if punt is the right word because they did play some of their top players
I thought it
or
was
some.
a half-ass effort. I think they.
Yeah.
I really thought it was like we'll give you guys a little bit of that, like we want this, but we're not gonna go full send and say we're gonna try to win this. Screw the MLS. We're just going full U.S. Open Cup. I
And that
thought they were trying to meddle it, like be right in the middle, and that was the issue. When you want to win something, you either have to commit to win it or to not care at all. You can't just go down the middle and be like, if we win, we're gonna kind of try to win. We'll see what happens, and that's when you end up losing most of these cup games.
and that's why I just watching the match was just really disappointing because um, the the team just didn't the team just wasn't clicking in any part of the pitch. I felt like
Mm-hmm.
the midfield wasn't working well together. The front three weren't really getting any opportunities. I had the numbers somewhere, but for how many minutes he played, Barrios had a surprisingly low number of total touches. Like he was not getting the ball at all. And on one hand, that could be his fault for not getting into great positions all the time. But on the other hand, the Rapids weren't sending. It wasn't like the Rapids were finding him regularly
Mm-hmm.
on the outlook. And when the Rapids did get chances in the final third, the vast majority of the shots that they took literally went straight at Tyler Miller. It felt just like their game against San Jose
If you look at the
last
stats, Tyler
Saturday.
Miller was going to be the player of the game because every shot they took, it was just directly at him, and didn't have to sweat any of them out.
Exactly. Um, and I don't know. That's like speaks to a bigger problem that I think Rapids Twitter has been really focused on over
Antipal
the
for sure.
yeah. So Rapid Twitter's been really focused on this for the last like really 2 weeks, and that's just that the wing play has not been good from the Colorado Rapids this season at all. It doesn't matter who gets lined up there: Jonathan Lewis, Michael Barrios, Max, who have you. Um,
I
no
think the
one.
Galvan injury is trying to show it's like rear its nasty head now more than ever. Because
I
Galvan was
think
that guy that you turned to when you needed that extra jolt. If you needed that like really special wing play, Galvan was your guy last year. You don't have him. You don't have him because of the ACL injury, and now you're struggling with Barrios, who's having to like focus that whole right side on himself. And Jonathan Lewis is like very iffy here and there. So now everybody's focusing just on Barrios for the most part.
20 matches, 20 straight appearances in all competitions from Michael Barrios without scoring a goal. The last time he scored a goal was against Minnesota last year in October sometime.
10 man down,
Uh,
right?
yes, that's
Down
right.
10 men.
Yeah.
Yep.
When they were
It
down
was
10
that.
men again. Yep.
Yep.
And
But this
I
time the
don't,
Rapids were down 10 men, not Minnesota. Last time. Last time it was Minnesota was down 10 men. I mean the Rapids were down 10
yes,
men in
yeah, last
Minnesota.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last time out in
Uh,
October.
and I just don't know. I just don't really know what's happened to Michael Barrios, man. Like that's been my biggest disappointment of the season so far. And I hate like framing it as that because I think he was a very good player for the Rapids last year. Top goal scorer, I think, if I
Yeah, for
remember
sure.
right. But yeah, to your point about Galvan, missing Galvan as an option out on the wings, and also combine that with losing Bassett on loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both of those players, I think, contributed significantly on the wings last year. Even though Galvan was kind of playing that left back
Lip,
Lucas
yeah.
Estevez role at times, but still missing those two players. If you look at like last season, a lot of the Rapids goals came from contributions that Bassett and Galvan gave the club on the wings, and that's
Even
just
if it
gone.
wasn't like even if it was in the like primary assist, it was that
Yeah,
hockey assist. They made the key
exactly.
pass for the next player to make that assist and get the goal. So they're definitely missing that play creation in the top three in the final third. That's coming from the wings. That is coming
Yeah,
from that central attacker, which Rubio has done pretty well when he plays that false nine role. But you didn't have starters this time that can finish or like take the attention away. Barrios
yeah,
isn't taking any attention away. Your Lewis is definitely not taking any attention away right now. So like it's just if Rubio has been your main creator and your main goal scorer, and that's the issue because they're supposed to be a team by committee. You don't
yeah,
got that one player that does everything for you.
yeah. And I think the Rapids have kind of just been over relying on Rubio. Not to take away from the great season that Rubio's having, because he's performing far above his usual standard with the
Oh, for
Rapids.
sure.
But I wonder if that's just a result of him, I guess, having more chances in front of goals because the rest of the team isn't getting into those positions this year. Or when they do get into those positions, they shank their shots, send it over goal, send it wide, or straight at the keeper. It doesn't really, they all count the same, right? Uh, and I just don't know, like, as injuries keep piling up with this team, like something has to change tactically. And I think you were right when you said earlier that the four back would be a good look for this team to start trotting out. I know it didn't look amazing against San Jose last weekend, but I still think that's like the way forward for this team, especially once Trusty leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I don't know if you're starting. I don't know if you
Messi
can
and
legitimately start Viacia, Wilson, and Abubakar as a back three week in and week out. I don't know if they can become that unit like Trusty Wilson and Abubakar were last season.
and also like going to that when you do the four back, you allow more playmakers on the field. Like the first week we saw that four back, you had Max Alves who was creating chances. You had Rubio, and you also had Ryan Acosta who did a great had a great game that day, and also you had a Mac. So you had 4 to 5 different creative players out there that could attack you in different ways. And when you go with the five back, you have to take one of them out and maybe put in one other person that's has to be a little bit more defensive minded. And that's when you start losing that
Yeah.
attacking forward. You start losing that momentum that you gain right away.
To Brendan's point in the chat, I was surprised Yappy didn't didn't get a start.
More surprising,
Honestly,
Yap getting not getting a start or Markinich getting a start.
I was more surprised at both Yappy and Anderson not seeing the field than I
Okay.
was, or sorry, not like starting out than I was regarding Markanich. I thought Markanich was sort of like one of those players that everyone should have been expecting to play this game. I was a bit surprised that he played it at wing back instead of at left center back. He's played both
Yeah.
for Rapids 2 this year, but um, I thought Frazier showed a lot of faith in him by sending him out in this game, and I thought he had an okay match. Like I don't think he was incredible. He had that one shot off the woodwork.
Hmm.
It was a really good header. Just barely missed the frame or missed the target.
And
Uh,
what kind of like that's one of my positives of this game. I thought he
sure.
played really well for being like a first time playing with the first team, basically. Um, what other positives did you have with this game?
What other positives? I mean, man,
I'll take
there
the
isn't a.
mosquito one. I'll take mosquito.
That's true.
I thought mosquito played pretty well.
I haven't posted my recap for this game, but I think my three high like the players that I rated the highest from this game were Markanich and Mosquita. And even then with Mosquita, he got the goal in 3 key passes, which is usually pretty good.
Yeah.
Um, completed a grand total of 60% of his passes, which isn't really good enough from a player
Yeah.
that's sitting as deep as he was in midfield.
And driving the play
Uh,
from that position, you have to be better with your passes.
exactly. A team high 17 turnovers from Mosquita. Like I
Yeah.
said, I was super happy to see him get the goal because I think that he was a big contributor last season that didn't get a lot of love because he was only coming on as a super sub. So I was a big fan of Mosquito's play last year. But I mean,
Mhm.
listen, he got the goal today, which is great. But the rest
It
of
was a
the
lot better for sure.
yeah,
Um, so
looking
this game,
forward.
yeah, so this game wasn't on altitude, but the game on Saturday isn't either. But after that, you are gonna have to watch the game on altitude. You are gonna have to look at it, and if you want to watch the game on altitude, you're gonna have to go with Ibaka. If you haven't been able to watch the Nuggets, Avalanche, or the Rapids games, now you can with Colorado teams you love in Ibaka. Ibaka has all your favorite Colorado teams. Ibaka is a totally new approach to TV programming, delivery that is less expensive, easy to watch, and offers a superior picture. Service includes local networks like Altitude Sports, AT&T Sportsnet, and other national channels. So if you want to watch the Broncos during the Broncos season, you totally can. If you're gonna have CBS, you're gonna have Fox, all those good lineups. Ibaka TV is growing constantly and adding new channels to the lineup. The service is now available in Denver, Colorado Springs. Most importantly, Ibaka TV has Altitude Sports. Don't miss the first round of the Avs and Nuggets playoffs, which already happened. Nuggets were eliminated. Avs weren't. They're going on. They're elite. But you can still watch the Rapids and the Mammoth too, who right now are in their playoff run. You can also access coverage of the Rams and Pioneers. With baseball season underway, you can watch the Rockies on AT&T Sportsnet, Rocky Mountain. That's all your favorite Colorado sports teams on Ibaka. How to sign up for Ibaka? Go to ibaka.tv/DNVR. Use promo code DNVR and you will get $10 off your first 3 months. That's only $15 per month, the first 3 months plus receiver. No contracts, no hidden fees. That
24 remaining Colorado Rapids matches, 22 of them are in the regular season, 22 of them will be on altitude.
you're
So
gonna
get
need
yourselves
Ibaka.
a
And the best thing about Ibaka to me right now is that you can record the games. So if you missed a game, you can go back and watch it. If you like me, that I like recording every game and then rewatching it so I can talk about it and see what happened. Because when you rewatch it, it's a completely different thing. It's really fun. So I personally have Ibaka. I love Ibaka. It's been great and it's easy to use. All you need is an internet connection, literally.
So this weekend, though, they are on Univision
They are
and on Twitter. But listen, you should come out for this one because it's the best team in the league coming to Dick's Sporting Goods Park
with the best player in the
with
league.
one of the best Drew
Mm,
Yossi's had a really good season, man. It's
yeah,
not right. Let's not.
it's just the Mexican bias in me. That's all it
That's
is.
true.
So
That's
they do
true.
okay. So the Rapids are getting a visit from LAFC, who is the best team in the MLS right now. They're surpassing all the expectations they've had this year because they thought with the new coach it was going to take about a year for them to actually get going, or even like half a season to get going, and they've proven to be elite again. They're finally reaching all the expectations they had in the last couple of years. What do you expect to see this game, and what do the Rapids have to do?
Well, the Rapids, they got to shut down Vela and Arango, and they also got to prevent Kellen Acosta from coming into Dick's Sporting Goods Park, with a revenge game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are like the three biggest LAFC players. Like I'll be watching this weekend. Mamadou Fall's been really good in defense for them. But really, it's the Vela and Arango show, right? Because those are their big budget attackers. That's where they put a significant portion of their salary budget on, and Vela's paid them back. Like this season, didn't kind of regress last year, but has come back like on fire this year. And LAFC is deservingly sitting at the top of the Supporter Shield table and the top of the
Mm-hmm.
Western Conference. Um, the Rapids are going to need to do a lot to get any points out of this one. And as you all know, like they're riding I think 21 game, or no, I may have the number wrong. They're running a very long home regular season unbeaten streak going into this match. So history says that the Rapids should be able to hold on, but LAFC has come to Dick's before and delivered some really solid games. And
How
this time the
mad do
Rap
you how
sorry, go
mad
ahead.
do you think LAFC is after last year's last game, where the Rapids
Uh,
completely thrashed them 5-3
I
or
yeah,
5-2? I don't remember. I
I
know the beginning of
definitely
the year they did come in a little when they saw them
sure.
at home. I know they were a little mad, but how motivated do you think LAFC is to like come into color Dicks to the Dick and try to take that unbeaten streak away?
Yeah, they're going to be firing on all cylinders because we've seen it from Sharondelo's teams this year. I haven't begun writing my preview for this one yet because we just finished this
Finished
match,
one game.
and so I'm gonna be up late tonight doing sort of like a deep dive on like their current form. But I want to see what their home record or what their road record looks like this year because I remember it
Yeah.
being pretty good. Um, but yeah, their last road match, they went to Cincinnati, who's been having a decent season this year, won 2-1. The road match before, they've won their last. They've won two out of their last three road matches. So
LAFC right now is just a trigger now.
yeah,
Let's be honest. They have great defense. They have a good
most goals
goalie
in the
and
league,
elite, yeah, and an elite attacking three.
and
It
they've
is what
only
it is.
been and they've only been beaten once all year, and that was to their crosstown rivals.
In
At
a very iffy game to be a very
Yeah,
controversial game. Uh,
exactly.
so we're gonna finally see Kellen Acosta back at Dick. He's gonna be donning the black and gold. Do you think the fans are gonna welcome with open arms, and
Oh
there's gonna be
yeah,
this expectation like, oh, he's gonna come out and try to dominate this game by himself?
yeah. I think that he's going to. Well, actually, you know what? He didn't have a particularly incredible game when the Rapids visited LAFC to start the year. I think Abubakar did foul him that led to that led to the penalty kick that Vela took. But he didn't, you know, it's not like he scored one of his once a season screamer from
Yeah.
outside of the box against the Rapids, right? But I think he could easily come out and deliver one of his best performances of the season. He's a quality player. He's got a really good defensive chops in midfield. He's he can hit a ball from distance in the right scenario, and yeah, well, so we'll see, but
I'm expecting a big game from him. I
uh,
really am expecting a
I'm
big game.
I'm certainly not excited about the prospect of the Rapids facing angry Kellen Acosta, on fire Vela, and just an overall dominant LAFC team going into this weekend.
Do you think that Vela's gonna like CONCACAF it up a little bit?
Like, do you think he's going to
And
dive a lot?
Acosta, yeah, like Acosta, not Vela. Sorry.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think
I know he's one of the
he's
more
going to
CONCACAF
he's
players
going to
for
pick his
sure.
moments for sure. I think he's going to I mean, the thing about Kellen Acosta is that he knows how to push like the boundaries of what is and isn't legal, as far as like
Mhm.
hard crunching fouls and delaying the time or delaying resumption of play and stuff like that. Yeah, we'll see if he brings that out against the Rapids. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. The Rapids,
So
I think he'll be looking. He'll probably be looking to find the back of the net, though. That's my
if
guess.
right now I'm looking at DraftKings and anytime goal scorer, Vela, Acosta right now is at plus 550 to score anytime in this game. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he actually scored. He is known to be fiery. He's had a lot of comments to say about where he could have been instead of LAFC. And I think he has that little grudge, not against the team, but against management. And he kind of wants to show up and show them, hey, I'm better than this. I shouldn't be in this league. Even though the MLS is a great league, he wants to be in Europe.
Yeah.
For sure.
No,
We all
I
know that.
he'll absolutely be coming out with a fire. As it'll be interesting to see, like, if he says anything post game. Um, but yeah, like Acosta, man, he's a special player. Like, I think he's really good. I think LAFC made a really smart decision to bring him in. We've seen that when they've added a bunch of these we've seen when LAFC and Cincy both honestly have added a bunch of MLS veterans
Hmm.
to their core players this season. We've seen positive results follow for those teams. And honestly, like, that kind of does validate a little bit about like the Rapids roster build, relying heavily
Yeah.
on those players that have significant experience in MLS. But the difference is that LAFC can supplement those players with your big budget attackers like Vela,
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Chicharango. So it's
I think
basically
it
like they basically built a roster that's kind of like the Rapids way, except they actually spend money.
exactly, and
Uh,
that's what you need. If you're gonna build a roster this way, you're gonna need those heavy hitters to come and help your MLS veterans a little bit to give them that extra oomph that they need. Because when you put MLS veterans against MLS veterans, it might be a squash most of the time. You know what I mean? They know how to play, but if you bring in those heavy hitters here and there to come in like supplements, they're gonna be your extra push that's gonna get over the line. So I agree with you. It's very similar, just with the big money budget.
Here's my question for you going into another a busy 3 game stretch. Um, how what's the bar for points that you think the Rapids need to pick up, that if they don't hit that bar, you start to go into like a little bit of panic mode?
So my
Like,
gas tank is just going down. Is what you're asking?
at what
What?
point do we start wondering if playoffs are no longer like what point do the playoffs like feel out of reach? Would they need to lose all 3 of these coming games? Would picking up just 1 point from these 3 games be enough to light the panic? Because like, I'm looking at the schedule, man. LAFC, Seattle, and I forget who the third one is. LAFC, Sporting KC, and then Seattle. And I know it's on the road in KC, but Rapids would absolutely need to pick up all 3 on that game. I see that game as a must win, considering uh, how bad SKC's injury situation is and how poorly they've played this season. And then with Seattle, like, you don't know if you're going to get CCL Seattle or the Seattle that's rotated a bunch for the league
Yeah.
to get the CCL. And then you have the Supporter Shield favorites right now in LAFC.
I think this team needs
How
to
many
come away
points do
with
they need?
4 to 5 points.
They need 4 to 5.
Four
Will
to
you
five
start
points. 4 or
panicking
5 points.
if they lose to LAFC and they lose to Seattle but beat SKC on the road? Are you starting to panic?
I'd be worried if they lose their 2 games at home because the Dick is a fortress, and then that's what they're protecting.
Yeah.
Once they start losing at home consecutively, no matter how good the team is, that's when I started getting scared because like, okay, the one aspect you're really good at is starting to dwindle, and that's what you've been hanging your head on the whole year, and now you don't got that anymore.
Yeah. They need
So
to
like,
absolutely, yeah, they need to do their best to come away with a draw this weekend because honestly, and I would love to be proven wrong here, but I just don't see how. I just don't see a win. Like, I
and
mean,
neither do I. I'm gonna be honest. I don't see a win. I can see a tie. It's gonna take quite a bit. It's gonna take a big effort from Rubio. It's gonna take a big effort from Zardes.
it's going
Jonathan
to need
Lewis
a
is
big
gonna.
game from Yarbrough too.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're also gonna need a huge game from Lucas. I think he's gonna have to come out, and I think Jonathan Lewis is also gonna have to like go back to that game he had against who was that?
Oh,
Against the
either
Timbers.
Atlanta or
Yeah, against
yeah.
the Timbers. He's
Yeah.
gonna have to go back because he didn't score a goal in that game, but he played amazing. He was.
Yeah.
I was really impressed by Lewis that game. He
Yeah,
needs to
me
play
too.
like that again, and I think that's gonna would take a lot. I think it's gonna be a full team effort. The midfield's gonna have to dominate. They're gonna have to keep possession to take because you're not gonna be able to shut down Arango and Vela the whole game. So you're gonna have to control possession and keep those opportunities limited.
Yeah, I think if the Rapids come out against LAFC like they did against Minnesota, that's just begging to concede. Like,
Hmm.
so what we saw in the first game of the year is that both teams really tried to play counter-attacking play against each other because it's like what they're best at. But when that happens, you basically have like no play in the middle of the field because it's basically just their center backs trying to boot it
Yeah.
up to Vela and Arango, and Danny Wilson trying to boot it up to Lewis or Barrios. I 100% agree with you that they need to go out and actually like try to control the game. I think setting up defensively and trying to pounce on the counter is a recipe for failure. But hey, listen, with the way I guess I should say it's a recipe for failure with how the defense has performed this season. If you throw Colorado's defense from last year, if they have like the game that a game at the level that made them as good as they were last season, then I mean I could see it working, but yeah, generally I do agree with you that they need to dictate the pace of play.
And I was gonna get into this. We saw Danny Wilson today. It looks like he's better. It looks like he might get the start on Saturday. Do you think they'll come out with the four back? You think they'll come out with the five, and then, or like, do you think Jack Price is ready to go, or do you think he needs a couple more weeks?
The scary thing is that I'm not a huge fan of Wilson in a back four. I think Wilson works best as performs best when he's in that
Mhm.
middle a role in a back three because it minimizes the chances that he has to 1v1 defend, and which I see as his biggest
Weakness,
yeah, his biggest
area
biggest
of
weakness as a
improvement.
yeah, right.
We don't
It's
want to say he's weak, just
it's
biggest
the
area of
area where he
improvement.
most needs to work on is his 1v1 defending. And when the Rapids have trotted out four backs, they've usually gone for Trusty and a Bubakar pairing, at least in the last two seasons. You may I think I could be wrong on this, but the last time I believe Wilson started in a back four was in those MLS's back tournaments
Yeah,
or MLS's back games in Orlando, where they conceded, I want to say, 8-9 goals to combined goals to RSL, Minnesota, and SKC.
yeah.
So I mean, I don't know,
Take what you want
man.
away from that. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
your
exactly. But
that's
that's
your
that was
stat
like
of the
ages
day.
ago. So maybe things are different now. I do think if you line up Wilson in a back four, that takes Trusty out of the picture because you need to have Wilson's left foot as the left center back, and I would prefer to see Estevez at left back over Trusty.
Although Trusty did was pretty serviceable last year as the left back.
That's true. That's
when
true.
Vines was out. Like I didn't have any.
I do
just think
remember
Lucas is more dynamic. I have no issue if they start Trusty because he wants a more like actual left back, somebody that's gonna stay back a little more. So I wouldn't mind it if Trusty started, but I'd rather have Lucas in there because I love Lucas' dynamic play. I think he's a great defender, but I think he's even more creative on the offensive mind. Juaners actually told me when we first got Lucas, he's like, "Have you ever seen Roberto Carlos play?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "We just got him in Lucas," and I wouldn't go that far, but the style of play is similar to Roberto
discount Roberto Carlos is still a compliment that I think he would appreciate.
Exactly. So like I see what he meant now that I look at him play as a Rapid. I know what he means, but I'm hoping that we can get that Jack Price in. I'm hoping we go with the 4-back, and I'm hoping if the Rapids take the lead with the last 20 minutes left, I want to see Danny Wilson come in, go with that 5-back, and then just transform your formation into a little bit more. Hey, you know what? We're good in the position, and we can play a counter from this position a little bit better. Let's keep it going this way.
Yeah, I think if like getting on the score sheet first is going to be essential for the Rapids this weekend. I think if they get a goal first, they'll be able to either see out a win or a draw. Obviously, I'd like to see the win. I just don't see a way. It's just hard for me to imagine the Rapids scoring multiple goals this weekend, and it's hard for me to imagine the Rapids also holding a clean sheet. So the question is, anyways, if the Rapids get on the board first, force LAFC to sort of come at them, then I think they could be in a good position. But we'll see.
Yeah, again, how you said, don't expect the win. I honestly wouldn't be that surprised. I'd be more surprised for a clean sheet, but I can see multiple goals. If they go with the 4-back, I can see multiple goals, especially if Jack Price is back, because Jack Price is a lot better midfielder than Brian Acosta is, and a lot more creative. So if you put Jack Price in that role that Acosta played against the Timbers, I think that they're going to be able to score 2 goals. I think Sardis gets on the score sheet this week. I think he comes away with his first goal, and I think Rubio adds to his tally as well.
Let's hope it happens, man. I will have the Yaselina
ready to go
for this weekend, man.
So score prediction from Joseph himself, the man, the myth, the legend.
Listen, I predicted a loss for the Open Cup, and it happened, but not in the way I thought it would. So I'm going to go optimistic for this weekend, and by optimistic I mean a draw.
Against LAFC in this form of the Rapids, it's not that unrealistic.
I still think that is a really optimistic result. I think this is broken. Buff for BCS, which I'm pretty sure is Boraz, says that this team is broken and that they're going to lose. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot or a loss on the weekend, especially considering that LAFC played their Open Cup game on Tuesday, has 4 days of rest going into the weekend versus the Rapids 2. Versus the Rapids 2 days, less than 48 hours of rest going into the weekend. It doesn't look like a good situation, but I still think the team fights through. Let's go 1-1 draw. Rapids score first, LAFC levels late. Everybody kind of leaves kind of miffed. That's my bet.
I won't ask you who scores. It's going to be hard.
I listen. I just want Zardes to score, man. I want him to just find the back of the net and just get that first goal out of the way, and then once that's gone, then we can actually maybe more will follow, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. So
for sure, I'm going with the 1-0 win.
Okay.
I think
I'll have that Yaselina.
I think Yarborough is gonna have a hard time keeping that game scoreless. I'm trying to be positive. I try to be positive. The gasolina is getting low. I'm gonna be honest with you too. Um, but I think it'll be a 1-0 win for the Rapids. I'm hoping for a 1-0 win. I think it's gonna be an early day game. Rapids fans usually show out for those pretty well. It's gonna be a high caliber game because it's gonna LAFC, a lot of star power in that team, of course. So I'm hoping for the best. I think it's gonna be a great environment as well to go watch the game at Dick's Sporting Goods. The C38 tailgate's always really fun to be at as well. So be sure to go to the game. Be sure to have a lot of fun. I know some of the DNVR employees are going to be out there. Um,
I'll be at the tailgate, so
Joseph is
say
going to be at the
hi.
tailgate. Any final thoughts, Joseph?
Listen, man, they got to turn around this run of form pretty soon. 1 win in the last 8. I'm. It's just at a certain point, things are gonna start becoming a little hairy. I just would rather them.
Steady the ship a little bit right now.
Yeah. We need to get things steady. No more multiple losses in a row. No more, boring. I guess defensive first play.
That's the thing that hurts the most. I think the defensive first play isn't giving you the results, and it's not giving you the fun to watch the game all the time.
Yeah, and it's like we're so far removed from that Rapids team that beat LAFC 5-2 to close out the season last year. It's actually like shocking, like how much of a difference like the season has made with like. And listen, I know we're trying to wrap up, but I just think it kind of goes back to the lack of investment we saw in the off season. They kind of just made like for like replacement, or what they thought were like for like replacements for everybody who was going away, and didn't really do much in the way of actively like making the team better. And now that all the new players that they brought in are still sort of struggling to play consistently and acclimate to not only just altitude, but to just Fraser's style of play. And that's what brings us to this point in the season. And I do kind of agree with Buff for BCS, right? That the team is kind of fundamentally broken. Like we aren't getting we talked about this earlier, we aren't getting goals from the wings. The goals by committee has stopped scoring. It's only Rubio who's finding the back of the net. And it's just made for the season. It's just made the season what it is at this point.
I also wonder if it's a little bit they got ahead of themselves. Instead of trying to get to the playoffs again, maybe they thought it was a given because they've been there 2 years in a row. And they were like, okay, we just got to show up, play our game, and we'll be okay. And I wonder if that effort level went away a little bit as well. That sense of urgency that's made this team kind of as impressive it's been the last few years.
They aren't really playing on a chip on their shoulders.
Exactly.
Like they have been. Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. Gone is like sort of that. Like, I don't know, man. Just like when you look at the difference
that mojo you had.
Yeah, when you look at the difference between how the forwards like played last season and how the defense played last season and what they put out this year, it's just been really disappointing to watch.
I have a quick question for you before we end up here real quick. So the rise of this team becoming like what we know as a role and having the expectations we have now kind of started with these homegrown players coming into the first team. You had Bassett, you had Vines, Sebastian Anderson was supposed to be part of that kind of class. We don't have right now a real homegrown player on the team.
And no one earning consistent minutes for sure.
Exactly. So I wonder if that's something that's hurting the team. Because that whole mojo kind of came for the first team that like we're creating from the homegrowns, we're creating this, we're gonna make this team good, we're gonna give it our all. I wonder if that sense of urgency came and left with them.
I wonder more so if like the pair of homegrowns in question, Vines and Bassett, doing so well to earn consistent minutes and get on the field and play at an MLS level, those players that in effect pushed the rest of the senior team to be better, right? Because I don't want to say they're getting shown up, but when 19 year olds start coming into the team and become locked in starters like Vines and Bassett were. I mean, as a veteran, you kind of have to look at that and be like, gotta
It
set
puts a
things up
fire
a
under
little.
your ass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I gotta set things up a little bit because like the kids are coming in, and now like the Rapids don't have those players to fall back on. They are dealing with they have been dealing with two very significant injuries to like the spine of the team, not to mention the injury to Galvan on the wings, right?
of course.
And so all of that has just like culminated together to give us the season that we've had so far. And that's why I think that the Open Cup game was really like a microcosm of the year, right? It's under delivering or underplaying at the level that this team should be.
It's kind of how you said before we went on there. You were like, it's a little bit of over promising with under delivering, and you don't mean the team is over promising. You just feel like the attitude they kind of have is over promising. Like
Yeah.
they're kind of walking into here like telling you we're gonna take it seriously, and it just feels like they don't.
Yeah.
Of course, so.
And it's like we saw that in the Champions League. We saw that in the Open Cup, and we've seen it in a lot of losses this year. So
For sure. So again, it is what it is. We're both going to be hoping for a positive result, preferably a win. Of course, we'll
they
take the
need
draw this
points.
weekend.
I
We
just want
want
to see
points.
points this week. They need points.
I'm in the same boat. Thank you very much, Joseph. Always a pleasure
Absolutely.
to have you on, man. We love having Joseph. Follow him at JS PSAM, right?
That's right.
All right, follow him. He's a great Twitter follow. I'm at Yahir G _ Vazquez. We're always posting things on Twitter. We're trying to have fun. Thanks a lot, guys. It's been the DNVR Rapids podcast.
And also shout out to Mitch. Hope you recover well,
Oh,
buddy.
shout out to Mitch. We love him so much. Dude's also always awesome. Hopefully, we might be able to get him on the post game. So we'll have a post game after the game on Saturday, and up the pids, as Mitch always says.
Up the